Alright everybody, this video is going to be a little bit different. This video is going to be about something that nobody ever told you, about how you can lose yourself with the pixels and a falsified reality, about how a hobby can grow into a self-destructive agony. This video will tackle a variety of subjects, from the nature of humans, how we are lost in the modern world, and how every single company out there is trying their best to use your predispositions against you. If you are a warthunder player, you already understand most of this video. But every competitive game out there, every PvP free-to-play modeled game is compliant in this nightmarish reality. As usual, I will try to stick to the point and transfer as much information as I possibly can. But this video is not going to be 5 minutes, so you might want to pour yourself a cup of tea or coffee. But it's alright if you want to put me on your second monitor while grinding. I would absolutely be honored. In order to completely dissect the situation, we will delve deep into a lot of different stuff, from psychology to philosophy, and finally the obvious elephant in the room. The joy of grind. So be at ease, soldier, because now it's a story time. Sometime about 10,000 years ago, your ancestors started as hunter-gatherer tribal creatures. Your great-grandfather, in order to find a suitable mate and get laid, had to compete with other men of his tribe. Leisure and satisfaction was quite limited and the lowest priority of the time. On the other hand, every life essentials like food, shelter, drinking water, sex and a status among the tribe was locked behind one thing: the competence of men in gathering and then holding on to their resources. So years passed, and slowly those who were smarter and physically stronger in gaining and maintaining their resources were sorted out as the fittest to survive. Alongside the physical strength and dexterity, something else developed in us as well. In order to be good at what we do, we had to prepare and practice for it. And in order to practice it repeatedly and religiously, we had to enjoy it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the initial starting point of what we call the rewarding system of the brain. This rewarding system is located in the frontal lobe of your brain. It is the main thing that drives your skill learning, time management, and decision-making process. A system that was evolved in the most efficient manner for you to seek the best and the easiest way to seek pleasure and positive emotions. For the longest time, this system was in your favor. It drove you to grind for life, seek energy-rich food, mate and multiply, and the most important thing, to endure pain and suffering in order to reach delayed rewards. Then the times changed, modernity happened, we got access to cheap processed food, got our hands on digital devices that had plenty of games and information a few clicks away from us. The main fuel source for neurotransmitters in your brain is glucose, also known as sugar and carbohydrates. Now you can get a shit ton of that for cheap from every corner shop out there. Something that was so rare and felt like a drug for our tribal ancestors is now packaged in all shapes and forms and tastes. I mean, if you would give a spoonful of sugar to your great-grandfather, he probably would experience a high as if he was on cocaine. But you as a human being in 2025 consume a ton of sugary food and carbohydrates on a daily basis. And no, this is not a cringy meat-eating diet fanboy. If you want to become a man, you should only eat red meat and animal products. It boosts your testosterone and libido. Get the fuck out of here. I'm simply trying to paint a picture for you over here, about how our brains were never programmed for this life and how things might go wrong with our new modern lifestyles. Alright, back to the topic. In order for you to develop skills and habits, your brain uses a simple function of creating neural pathways and reinforcing them every time you repeat an act or consume something. Contrary to the common belief that dopamine is only released when you see the target destroyed on your screen, most of the dopamine released into your system is in the form of chasing that reward and not actually reaching it. This is the part when your biology enters the picture. While the rewarding function is a shared experience between men and women alike, men have a slight advantage, or in this case, disadvantage. The male brain, because it is dominated by testosterone as the primary sexual hormone, has a much easier time enduring the effort part of the cycle. You enjoy grinding much more than your female counterparts. Studies show that men have a much higher reaction to dopamine-inducing activities and habits, and of course high-risk activities varying from gambling to substance abuse. Testosterone increases your brain's sensitivity to dopamine. Something that would make you a hard worker thousands of years ago now is pushing you towards entrapment in cycles of enjoyment. And with a simple look over the audience pool of my own channel and frankly any video game related topic, you can easily connect the dots. And that is exactly why men have a higher tendency to be trapped in vices and addictions. Mix that up with a feeling of competition and you've got a disastrous recipe. After all, it's so fun to destroy another man's ego without hurting him physically, right? Your brain is a blank slate that will change and develop towards the things you point it at. Think of your brain as a field of grass. Every time you play a video game and enjoy it, every time you eat something that immediately gives you a hit of energy, there is a heavy truck passing through this field of grass. And over time, the grass stops growing in those parts and it creates this dirt road effect. So it is much easier for you to follow the same roads again and again. And the effect of stimulants on your brain, like nicotine and caffeine, or perhaps even sugar, is like sending multiple trucks on those pathways. So over time you develop new habits and interests. You are grinding for a new armor in a video game, or perhaps a new tank or plane. The problem is not the grind. The problem is not the fact that you're enjoying it. The main issue here is how over time we have cut this cycle of effort and reward short, and how young we actually start doing these things. We start bombarding our brain pathways with a lot of engaging stuff like movies and video games, and over time we get used to getting rewards much sooner than expected. And since most of the mental illnesses associated with the rewarding system of the brain, like ADHD, is a keyword neurodevelopmental problem, as a result, a lot of our generation has been conditioned to have a malfunctional rewarding system that doesn't understand what's good for them in the long term. A wrongly developed prefrontal cortex will be time blind, fails in recognizing what is the most important objective, missing on the bigger plan for short-term gratification and immediate distractions, destroying ourselves in an endless battle of willpower and happy hormones. In a video last year, we talked about where self-awareness and agency enters the picture. How can we in the same breath claim that people have agency and still blame the tech companies for taking advantage of behavioral sciences and large pools of data? In the comment section of the same video, I mentioned how a lot of us, the older parts of the Gen Z, have seen the live transformation of gaming from a passion-fueled new medium for stories to a complex web of psychological tricks to keep players engaged. All the major game developers and publishers, especially those in the field of live service games, are now openly hiring for behavioral scientists and marketing psychologists. There is no shame for these companies because the worst version of this was already allowed for years prior. Targeted advertisement has been a thing for almost more than a decade now. A concept that on the surface is completely safe. We use a certain application, a social media or whatever in the same nature. We openly consent to be spied on for the entirety of our activity on that particular platform. Then the same data collected on us will be used to categorize us into sections and types, each with different desires and wants. Centuries of people trying to type each other into different personality types based on different things. But this is the shit. Information that will never be public. They know what you want better than you. They know that what you hate might actually keep you more engaged as well. And then they will use the same data to show you advertisements that are relevant to you. So if the major governments all around the world openly allow this data collection to happen, who's gonna stop Fortnite at 2018 from creating a battle pass system that checks the boxes for every manipulative tactic used? A game that is, because of its funny and colorful graphics, will naturally be attractive to young kids, but at the same time filled with tricks after tricks to keep them spending. Best case scenario, they will spend by annoying their parents and their supervision. Worst case scenario, they do it through other means. Either way, it's a company making money with non-refundable purchases. Now in case of warthunder, I've already said before that warthunder has a pretty healthy battle pass system. The rewards make up for like 4 times more of the price you pay for the pass. Meanwhile, other games are pulling numbers, doing the breadcrumb mechanic, to give the players enough in-game credit to just be able to buy the next pass with their money. Nowadays, games feel like a 9-to-5 job more than a game, huh? You might ask yourself, what is exactly going on here? Why are these mechanics so important if the customer already has agency? See, the problem begins when we humans fall into a trap that you probably heard before. Fear of missing out. The feeling that we feel if we don't travel with a caravan, we might be on our own. There might be something at the end of a tunnel for them and not for us. Or in case of buying the games themselves. Like for example, Call of Duty. We have been playing this game since forever. Personally, I started with COD 2 as a single-player game, and then I started my multiplayer from COD 4. Most of the games are practically the same shit, but we always come back, we always want to stay up to date. Because of that feeling of being connected to other people, that feeling of being universal. So you might enjoy playing, for example, Modern Warfare 2 from 2009, but being good at an old game isn't nearly as much fun as being good at a popular new game, right? So we say it is only about the fear of missing out. But in reality, it's a combination of multiple deeply rooted desires that we have. Competition, rewards, and the struggle to be connected and online. So if we already know what's wrong with these mechanics, how come our governments don't know about it? And if they do recognize these companies as law-abiding entities, why don't they try to regulate them into behaving in a more healthy manner? Why after so many job layoffs because of the progression of AI in field of design and art, there's still zero regulations happening around the subject? Why after so many years of preaching democracy and healthy capitalistic free economy, big tech companies still get to monopolize other smaller companies? Well, the answer is super simple. All these governments, including the United States and China, and partly Europe, are shitless scared of losing their market. All these countries work in a manner like a shopping mall. They have built a beautiful building, sold their shops to businesses of all kinds. Their only desire was to offer a market to people and then get their benefits in shape of taxes. If you start limiting or going against the businesses that you're hosting in this building, they might comply for a time, but if you push them enough, they will move their headquarters building to another country that is in development and has much looser regulations. That business will continue to exist. It's only that shopping mall that has lost a good money-making machine. This is more or less what is happening all around the world. America is scared of losing its tech companies to China and vice versa. Meanwhile, our generation has to suffer. Warthunder was never popular because of its healthy mechanics. This game has a wild progression system, elements of gambling, with a matchmaking system that is based on vehicles instead of skills. The progression system is heavily reliant on player purchases. It's unique, it's special, and frankly it has no competition. That is why we love it, but it is important that we frequently discuss its faults and shortcomings, because often lack of competition and regulation will result in some wildly negative decisions, and Gaijin is definitely guilty of such decisions. As much as we like to say people have agency, throughout my Warthunder journey, which has been more than a decade now, I met a lot of interesting people through this game, and you'd be amazed how many people actually struggle with obsessive behavior when it gets to this game. And I totally understand, compared to real-life issues, real-life drugs and struggles, addiction to a video game seems so dramatic and unnecessary. But I have stories that will make you shake in your boots. This game and many others can absolutely rob you of your potential and life. And when you see it through that lens, talking about it is not cringe anymore. As we speak, there are new players joining the game. Many already in the queue for the next match. And every single one of these people have a story. They have a life. And some of them are desperately escaping their real-life problems with this game. And a good number of them are doing it out of habit and without willpower. And I think it is our duty to preserve our next generations. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe and become a member to help us tackle more subjects. This is Gorilla Scientist, and we're seeing you.